The stars twinkled above, 1,000,000 factors of mild against the countless blackness of area. The airlock hissed open, and a lone discern floated out, clad within the cumbersome healthy of an engineering professional. The figure, a person by way of look, appeared to be humming softly to himself as he maneuvered his manner closer to the massive hull of the alien vessel. His gloved hands expertly manipulating the magnetic grapples, he attached them to the hull and started out to drag himself alongside, inching towards his vacation spot. The alien captain, watching him from the bridge, scoffed. Another human, he muttered to his 2D in command. Always so clumsy, so inept. They're barely more than animals in area. He gestured dismissively. They cannot even speak our language nicely. The 2ND in command laughed, his scaly claws clicking against the clean surface of the manipulate panel. Yes, sir, he chuckled. They're a pitiful lot, for certain. Meanwhile, the human engineer, his return to the alien ship, persisted his work with practiced performance. He'd been given a reputedly impossible challenge: repair the alien vessel's warp drive, otherwise chance the destruction of his very own deliver, in addition to endless innocent lives. It was a tall order, to make certain, but he'd faced more difficult demanding situations before. And he'd be damned if he allow a stuck-up alien captain think he changed into any much less successful, just because he wasn't born with gills and a tail. His gloved fingers danced throughout the controls of a transportable welding unit, expertly repairing a vital fault within the warp power's manifold. The work changed into sensitive, unique, and could have long gone horribly incorrect had he been only a fraction off. But he wasn't. He changed into a human, and human beings were known for their ingenuity, their resourcefulness. They were survivors, and he changed into going to prove it. As he completed up and indifferent the welding unit, a concept came about to him. He'd been so focused on the project handy that he'd forgotten to ask for something he desperately wanted. Something that might show his well-worth to the extraterrestrial beings as soon as and for all. With a sigh, he keyed his comms unit. Hello? He stated, his voice sounding small and tinny in his helmet. This is the human engineer speaking. Could I get a cup of coffee, please? Black. The captain's laughter boomed over the comms, startling the engineer. Ha! You humans and your coffee, the alien chuckled. Very properly, engineer. A cup of espresso it will be. But permit this be a lesson to you. Even inside the depths of area, we aliens have extra vital matters to worry approximately than your pathetic earthly caffeine addictions. The engineer smiled to himself as he waited for the espresso to brew. Despite the captain's condescending tone, he felt a small feel of achievement. He'd verified that human beings were extra than simply animals in area. And with any luck, this will be the beginning of a new era of expertise among their species. As he sipped his steaming cup of coffee, he gazed out the viewport, looking the celebrities dance in the darkness, and felt a glimmer of hope for the future. You understand, engineer, the captain stated, his voice all of a sudden sounding extra thoughtful. I've given it some notion. Your humans have carried out some magnificent matters in area. Perhaps there is something we should analyze from each different. The engineer, caught off protect by means of the surprising compliment, hesitated earlier than responding. Thank you, sir. I believe there is extremely good capability for cooperation between our species. We should attain so much greater collectively. Indeed, the captain mused. Perhaps someday, you and I could work collectively, facet by means of aspect, as equals. As the engineer took every other sip of his coffee, he couldn't help but experience a feel of wonder. Perhaps, within the grand scheme of factors, this second became the start of a new era for each humans and aliens. A time of expertise, cooperation, and mutual admire. He simplest was hoping that the future might stay as much as the promise of this fleeting second. The captain's voice added him again to truth. So, engineer, inform me extra about this area you call Earth. I've heard such a lot of testimonies, but I'd want to pay attention it from a person who has virtually been there. The engineer paused, lost in idea for a moment, earlier than launching into a description of his domestic planet. He mentioned its numerous landscapes, its teeming towns, and its colorful cultures. He talked about the demanding situations people confronted, from climate trade to overpopulation, and the way they have been operating collectively to triumph over them. He shared testimonies of human achievements in art, technological know-how, and generation, and the way they'd come collectively to discover the celebrities and increase their knowledge of the universe. As he spoke, the captain listened intently, his eyes sparkling with interest and admiration. When the engineer finished, there has been a protracted silence as each of them pondered the opportunities that lay ahead. Finally, the captain spoke. I must admit, engineer, your stories have filled me with a sense of awe and marvel. I accept as true with that we could obtain remarkable matters together, if we work collectively. Perhaps at some point, human beings and aliens will walk aspect with the aid of side as equals, exploring the galaxy and mastering from each other. The engineer felt a lump forming in his throat. He knew that this became no idle promise. The captain's phrases carried the weight of centuries of alien history, and the capacity for change they represented was outstanding. He regarded into the alien's eyes and noticed no longer handiest a respect for his kind, but also authentic desire for information and cooperation. It turned into a second that he would in no way forget about, and one which he was hoping might mark the start of a new technology of peace and prosperity for all life inside the galaxy. Thank you, Captain, he said softly. I proportion your wish. Together, I absolutely agree with we will acquire something. As they finished their espresso, the two of them stood facet by way of side, looking the celebrities dance within the vastness of space. For a short moment, it nearly regarded as if they were now not human and alien, but actually two clever beings, united by means of their not unusual preference to explore and apprehend the universe round them. The future, it seemed, held countless opportunities, and the possibilities for the human-alien partnership were truly boundless. I even have usually been curious about your species, the captain said, his voice tinged with wonder. You humans have finished a lot, despite the various demanding situations you face. I wish that together, we assist you to conquer them. The engineer smiled, feeling a warm temperature unfold through his chest. And I wish that we permit you to, as well, he answered. Together, we are able to study from each different strengths and work toward a brighter, extra-wealthy future for us all. As they spoke, they each felt an experience of camaraderie developing between them, a deep information that transcended their variations. The captain prolonged his hand, imparting it to the engineer, who took it in his personal. Their grips have been company, their gazes locked. In that moment, it became as if they were forging a brand new alliance, a partnership that would span the celebrities and shape the destiny of two excellent civilizations. Captain, the engineer said, his voice consistent and resolute. I accept as true with that together, we can obtain whatever. The captain nodded, his eyes shining with dedication. I agree, engineer. Together, we will explore the galaxy and past. Together, we are able to make our mark at the universe. And with that, they turned away from the viewport, ready to stand the challenges and opportunities that lay in advance. Side through side, as equals, they would embark on a journey that might take them similarly than either should have ever imagined. A journey filled with marvel, discovery, and the promise of a brighter the next day. The captain led the engineer deeper into the unidentified flying object, its partitions adorned with complex carvings and glowing holograms depicting the history and tradition of the immortal race. Each step they took brought them in the direction of information, the secrets in their sturdiness, and possibly someday, replicating their success. As they explored, they determined themselves drawn into severe discussions approximately the implications of immortality. The engineer, curious about the technology in the back of it, desired to recognize every detail of the way it worked, even as the captain, steeped in the philosophical traditions of his human beings, changed into greater inquisitive about the ethical concerns and the existential questions it raised. You human beings have this kind of rich history of philosophical notion, the captain stated, gesturing to a hologram of an historic human logician. Your writings on the nature of mortality, of the human situation, have stimulated endless generations. To find out that our species can acquire the identical nation of immortality. His voice trailed off, as if misplaced in contemplation. The engineer nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. It does alternate the whole lot, doesn't it? He responded. We've constantly questioned if there has been something more obtainable, a few higher reason for our existence. And now, with immortality within our grasp. He paused, searching for the right phrases. It forces us to confront the question of what we are meant to do with eternity. They persisted their discussions for hours, debating the deserves of immortality, the role of loss of life in shaping human experience, and the duties that got here with such a gift. As they argued, they found themselves growing nearer, their variations blurring as they discovered shared values and common goals. Eventually, they reached a chamber on the coronary heart of the flying saucers. There, they observed a group of elders, wise and ancient beings who had lived for millennia. The captain and the engineer approached them, full of an aggregate of awe and interest. Greetings, the captain stated, bowing respectfully. We are from the human starship excursion. We imply you no harm. We simply searching for to understand your methods, to analyze out of your wisdom. The eldest amongst them smiled gently and spoke back. We have been expecting you, Captain. Your presence right here isn't any twist of fate. You and your crew have a good deal to teach us, just as we have a lot to train you. The captain and the engineer exchanged glances, figuring out that their journey had handiest just started. Together, they could explore the mysteries of immortality, confront the questions that it raised, and forge a brand new course forward for his or her two civilizations. The stars continued to dance outdoor the Deliverance windows, a steady reminder of the vastness of the universe and the countless opportunities that lay before them. As they stood there, facet by using aspect, they knew that they were on the cusp of something without a doubt transformative. A new age was dawning, one in which humans and extraterrestrial beings should work together as equals, sharing their information and their dreams. And as they looked out into the cosmos, they knew that their location in it'd in no way be the identical once more. The alien global before them become a testament to the understanding and power of this immortal civilization. The towns were marvels of structure and engineering, their people residing in harmony with nature and each different. They had harnessed the secrets and techniques of the universe and bent them to their will, growing a utopia in which suffering and strife had been unknown. Yet, no matter their apparently perfect life, the captain and the engineer sensed a deep-seated longing in the immortals. It became as if that they had reached the top of their achievements, however, were nevertheless searching for something extra. something to fill the limitless expanse of time that stretched out earlier than them. The captain approached one of the elders, a being who had lived for limitless millennia. We humans have continually struggled with our mortality, he stated, his voice full of awe and admire. But you have got observed a way to go beyond it. What is it like, to live forever? The elder smiled kindly, his historic eyes sparkling with information. It is each a blessing and a curse, my expensive captain, he responded. We have seen empires upward push and fall, civilizations come and cross, whilst we stay. Time has no dominion over us, but we're nonetheless certain through it, for we're creatures of time, as nicely. We stay inside the shadow of eternity, constantly aware about the vastness of the universe and the brevity of our life inside it. The engineer listened closely, his thoughts racing with possibilities. He knew that their discovery should trade the direction of human records, but he also understood the duty that came with it. They couldn't virtually impose their values and beliefs upon this ancient civilization. They ought to learn from them, and admire their particular angle at the universe. As they continued their adventure through the alien world, the captain and the engineer determined themselves, drawn into extreme discussions approximately the consequences of immortality. The engineer, interested in the era behind it, wanted to recognize each element of ways it worked, at the same time as the captain, steeped in the philosophical traditions of his humans, turned into extra inquisitive about the moral issues and the existential questions it raised. You people have one of these rich history of philosophical idea, the captain said, gesturing to a hologram of an historical human truth seeker. Your writings on the character of mortality, of the human condition, have stimulated infinite generations. To discover that our species can achieve the equal kingdom of immortality. His voice trailed off, as though lost in contemplation. The engineer nodded, his thoughts racing with possibilities. It does trade the whole lot, does not it? He responded. We've constantly wondered if there has been something more obtainable, something past our mortal life. And now, we know that it is feasible. But with that know-how comes an awesome responsibility. We cannot truly take this technology and run the usage of it to create a brand new utopia without considering the outcomes. The captain smiled softly, his gaze misplaced in thought. No, he agreed. We ought to tread carefully. We ought to examine from your human beings, in addition to from our personal records, and find a manner to balance the pursuit of immortality with the maintenance of what makes us human. For it is our humanity, our flaws and screw-ups, that have introduced us to this moment. And it's miles that identical humanity that need to guide us ahead. As they persevered their journey, the captain and the engineer discovered themselves drawn into deeper discussions approximately the implications of immortality. They spoke of the capability for abuse, each on a personal and a societal degree, and the need for transparency and responsibility in any device that sought to furnish such energy to individuals. They debated the function of religion and spirituality inside the face of eternity, and the importance of keeping cultural traditions and historical reminiscence. At one factor, they came throughout an historical temple, its partitions embellished with problematic carvings and mosaics depicting the history of the alien civilization. The captain paused before a selected image, a scene of a super struggle between immortal beings. Do you see this? He requested the engineer. This is what we must avoid. Wars fought no longer for land or resources, however virtually for the joys of conquest and the desire for dominance. We have to discover a way to ensure that immortality does not breed such adverse dispositions. The engineer nodded solemnly, his mind racing with the captain's phrases. I recognize what you are pronouncing, he responded. But how will we make certain that such adverse tendencies don't emerge? How can we create a society that values concord, cooperation, and mutual respect inside the face of immortality? The captain gazed out over the historic cityscape, his expression pensive. I do not have all of the answers, he admitted. But I agree with it starts with education. We ought to train our human beings about the consequences of their movements, not just on their very own lives, but at the lives of these around them, and on the sector itself. We have to instill in them a feel of duty, of empathy, and of compassion. We must educate them that immortality is not a license to do as they please, however rather a sacred belief, a present that we must use accurately and with top-notch care.